Snarky. When you wrote the Rebbe 50 years ago, 50 years ago, the days Ben Mitzrayim, we could learn the Hilchos Beis Hamikdash, and we have the honor today to have Shmuel, הכהן וויספיש, and the Choshev Mechanchim in our community is going to give us some insights into the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Rav וויספיש, בבקשה.
So as mentioned, it's now 50 years since the Rebbe started the Inyan of learning Hilchos Beis Hamikdash. It's actually started in the Farbrengen of Betmuz, Tavshin Lamed Vav, which is next week. It'll be mamash 50 years, and also B'Hashgacha Pratis, we are learning today, the last few days, and today is the Siyum of Hilchos Beis Hamikdash in the limud of Shleisha Prakim Layem. So it's interesting that in that year, in Tavshin Lamed Vav, from then, when the Rebbe started this Inyan, until Erev Rosh Hashanah, at least, come out by every Farbrengen, all the way through Chedesh Av and Chedesh Elul, the Rebbe explained one halacha in Hilchos Beis Hamikdash. All the way in the Farbrengen, Erev Rosh Hashanah, Malchin, come out the next year, still the Rebbe is still kachin zich and explaining the halachas of Hilchos Beis Hamikdash. And the following year, Tavshin Lamed Zayin, so the Rebbe said that now we're going to talk about the last halacha of the Hilchos Beis Hamikdash. So try and say a little Inyan from the beginning, and also a Siyum Hilchos Beis Hamikdash, the way the Rebbe explained it in Tavshin Lamed Zayin. So when the Rebbe started off, the Rebbe brought the Inyan, the Medrash, the Yalkut Shemini, that the Eibush told Yecheskel that they should tell the Yidden that they should learn the halachas of Hilchos Beis Hamikdash, Hilchos Beis Hamikdash, and this way, Ma'ila ni Alav Ki'ilu b'minyane ahimasukim. So the word is that this was the beginning of the Galus Bavel, and they knew that they're going to be in Galus Bavel for 70 years. And nevertheless, at the beginning of Galus Bavel, they were told that they should learn Hilchos Beis Hamikdash. And Allah is going to come now, when we call the kids, and for sure we have to learn Hilchos Beis Hamikdash, Beis Hamikdash, and we should ma'ila ni'aleim ki'ilu that it's being built now. So we find that when Haman came to Mordechai and he saw that they were learning, he asked, "What are you learning?" So b'matim oiskim, and Mordechai told them, "I'm learning Hilchos Mitzvah Sa'ima." Yeah, the halacha of bringing the carbon na'ima. So here's Mordechai Tzaddik who knows the Gzeira, Yodas Kalash Nasa, he knows what's going on the Mata and what's going on the Maila, and there's a Gzeira and a Ganza Maisa. And instead of sitting and saying Dylan, what is he busy with? He's busy with learning Hilchos Hakrava Sa'ima. That's what we have to do now. So the same thing now, that all the Gzeiras are already bottled, in a Davatal al B'tshuva, that the Chatchila we have to be busy with the Inyanim of the Beis Hamikdash. What do we find by Yecheskel? That by Yecheskel it says that he asked the Eibishna, he says, now we're in exile, we're in Galus, what can I do now? I'm in Galus, what's going on? Now is the time to learn about the Beis Hamikdash. So the Eibishna said to Yecheskel, because they're in exile, they're in Galus, therefore there should be no binyan Beis Hamikdash. Go and tell them to learn Beis Hamikdash. It's as if the reward of learning it, it's as if they're building the Beis Hamikdash. So the Rebbe asks, what do you mean? How could Yecheskel ask such a question, Michal? The Eibush told Yecheskel to go do something, and Yecheskel says back, what do you mean? I should go do it now? I can't. How could Yecheskel say such a thing? So what's pshat? So the Rebbe answers the same way as we say in it says in Chumash, when it comes to Shvita, what are we getting in the year of Shvita? What's our question is this? The pasuk should have said clearly that Betzavisi is brachasi. I'm fighting. Why do you have to say it in the lashon of Shlila? Now, here we see that the vart is that we have to be shalom, we have to exclude, and we have to destroy the halam hesed, the concealment of nefesh habamis in the world, dafka in a way of asking it as a lashon of a shayla and tshuva v'chiltzeichel neim maseichel, and then the Eibush answers and says, "V'tzvi says b'chasi." The same over here in the Geir Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe says that there was when it was Matzir to learn the Beis Bechira, so there was people that asked, "Are women also mechuyev?" People asked the Rebbe, "Women also mechuyev?" So what's the shayla b'chal? Look in the Rambam. It says, "Hakel chayavim livneis anashim anashim." They asked the Rebbe that maybe women don't have to build a Beis Hamikdash. So what do you mean? It says clearly in the Rambam that men and women should learn should be sasik build Beis Hamikdash. And we find even more so early by the Mishkan, and they call Anashim Shanosil B'nei Sana Tovus Izim. We see clearly, and it happens to be that year Tosh Lamed Vav, there was a very, very big kach earlier in the year in the winter on this Rashi, and the Geya Tovus Izim. I said, how could you forget what we spoke about in the Fabrengen? I like the famous story that Rebbe mentioned that Asher will see in Mechetesa, but Chitas for sure I remember. So the Rebbe says, the Rebbe was at Gemont, Hayetochen, but vergessen Nazach that was spoken by Arichas Gedela in that year in Tavshin Lamed Vav. Anyway, so when the beginning of Hilchos Beis Hamikdash, so one Nekuda that the Rebbe spoke about then and said that the Rebbe brings that the Teisvus Yontif says in Hilchos on Mishnayos Midas, he says, "Ein by inyan acher ela sipur." So the whole thing is a sipur, and that's why it's at the end. So the end of Sefer Kodshim, because the whole thing is just a story, just telling what happened. So the Rebbe asked a question in the previous Fabrengen and said, "What do you mean? How can you say it's a story? It's the Gela Maisa." And we said now that Ma'ilani Aleim Kilo Sukim Ba'Binyan. So how can you say it's only a story? And B'chlal Mishayis Midas was learned in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. It was already learned, and it was Negev. They had to fix something. And Zevaita. Even more, there's a famous story in the Medrash. In the times of Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, that the Malchus Reimi came out with a thing that the Agzera Lateva, that the Yid can rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. Yidden all excited, and they two great tzaddikim, Papios and Leonius, they came and they set up tables and they gave everybody what they needed, and everyone went to the Beis Hamikdash. But they built the Beis Hamikdash, and then the Kutim, came with the same Chochmah that they came earlier in the times of Keresh, and they came and they sent to the king that they're going to be rebel against you and you have to stop it. And all the Yidden were crying when they heard what the Gzeira was saying. The story Bekitza, and they didn't know what to do. So they told Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, he's the one that he's going to give them calm them down. So he got the Yidden together and he told them, "I'll tell you a mashal." Everyone knows the famous mashal. It's brought down in the Medrash. And there was a lion, and the lion had a bone stuck in its throat. And he made an announcement, and he said, "Whoever's going to come and remove the bone from my throat, I'll get a reward. I'll give them a reward." So came along a bird with a very, very long beak, and he came and he put his head into the head of the lion, and he pulled out the bone. And he went to the lion and he said, "No, where's my reward?" So the lion started laughing at him and said, "The reward is that you'll tell everybody that you put your head into the mouth of the lion and nothing happened to you. That's the reward." So Shari says that we were saved already. They're not killing us. That's just back off from the building of Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe brings in the story that it was Negei Halacha L'Maisa to build the Beis Hamikdash. And the Rambam brings Halacha L'Maisa also. How can we say it's only a story? The whole thing is only a story. It's Negei Halacha L'Maisa. So the Rebbe brings that the difference, it's brought down in Medrash, the Gemara is brought down, but again the difference between Sefer Vayikra and the other Svarim of Bereshis, Shmois. It says that Vayikra is considered the Chomor Shebesvarim. Well, why is it Chomor? There's more mitzvahs in all the other Svarim, more than the whole Sefer Vayikra. Why is Vayikra Chomor? So the answer is that Vayikra is, the other Svarim are written more in Maderech like a story. Bereshis and a lot of Shemais and even in Bamidbar and even parts of Devarim are written as a story. Mashenkin Vayikra, it's not a story, it's straightforward. There's halachas. So the same is midas, the midas is written more in a signain of a story. It's also halachas, and the Ram brings it down, but it's written as a story in a story, so it's written down. It's written down at the end. Okay. So one little nakuda in 2 points in the Rambam. In the beginning of Midas, it brings that V'shleishim Bekemes Akenim Shemis Hamikdash. How does this come into Mishnah's Midas? The meaning of Shmiras Hamikdash. It's not negate to building the base of Mikdash. No, so the Rebbe answers that it doesn't say mitzvahs as say live in his base of Mikdash. It says mitzvahs as say last his base of Mikdash. The mitzvah is to make the base of Mikdash with all the necessary details that to have the base of Mikdash properly standing. And as part of that is also the Shmiras HaMikdash, which is part, as it says, Ein Edema, a Palatin Sheshal of Shemrin, a palace that has Shemrim and so forth. So that's why it has to be also in Mishnah's Midas. To finish off with one small vart of today's Rambam, make a siyum on Hilchos Beis Bechira. We're starting Hilchos Beis Bechira, but we're also finishing Hilchos Beis Bechira. So today we're finishing Hilchos Beis Bechira, and in the last halacha of Hilchos Beis Bechira, the Rambam says the halacha beforehand. The Rambam says the whole seder of how they would go around in the morning with avukas, and in the evening they would go with avukas shel oir. They would go with torches. So the Rambam finishes off the last halacha of Hilchos Beis Bechira. The Rambam says, "Kaseidas ha'osim b'chol laila v'laila." The whole seder which the Rambam discusses in the halacha before, chutz b'leila Shabbos, she'ein b'yadam oir ela beitkim b'neiros hadoikim shel me'erev Shabbos. They're not holding the torches in their hands because they have the licht that was already lit before Shabbos. So the question is that the question on this is so the Kesef Mishnah says that even though there's no Ein Shvus B'Mikdash, but Ein Shvus B'Mikdash only applies b'makim she'i efsher. But if you could have a way out and you can use the licht from before Shabbos, then even in Beis Hamikdash Shvus applies. That's what Kesef Mishnah says. Mishnah Lamelech asks a question on this, and he says in Hilchos Yom Kippurim we find that when the Kohen Gadol needs to warm up the mikveh for Yom Kippur, it was zaken or chela, so they would take a shashis shel barzel, they would take pieces of metal, warm it up, and they would throw it into the water and it would warm up the water on Yom Tif, on Yom Kippur, in order to take out the chill from the coldness from the water. And why? Because Ein Shvus HaMikdash. So and there's a way out. He says there's an eitzah. He gives an eitzah how to do it. That you can warm up water before Shabbos and pour the hot water into the cold water, and that's no isser in that. So why do you have to do it in a way that's dafka doing isser malacha? You could do it this way. So the nekuda of the answer is that in the Beis Hamikdash everything was perfect. There was no leichasiv layate. Everything was perfect. And so when it comes to warming up water in the Beis Hamikdash, it was something that was not a usual thing. It didn't have hot water in the Beis Hamikdash a whole year round, and to start warming up water beforehand and to preparing it it was a big problem that it was a turcha, and so it was only this once a year. If I say that only once a year on Yom Kippur was the only time that they actually used hot water in the Beis Hamikdash. So when it comes to Shmiras HaMikdash, or something that was on every single night, there's no problems, and it's not something that you're going to forget about. So it was done every. So therefore, if you had light lit before Shabbos, that was enough to light up the Beis Hamikdash. You didn't have to light it up on Shabbos, carry it on Shabbos. But they could not rely on that when it came to heating up the water. It could be they would forget it, and as a vaita, because it was only a yetzim and a klal. So therefore, the Rambam says that you're allowed to do it this way, and therefore there's ein shvus b'mikdash. Okay, we should mention we should right before the end of Shuvas Betmuz, we should already have the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, and we have the Shmiras HaMikdash, and this week we should already be able to guard the Beis Hamikdash and out of Shabbos tomorrow. We'll do it the proper way, as the Rambam says, with the kelim, with the licht that are lit before Shabbos, without being over on Shvus HaMikdash. I just want to remind everybody to please give tzedakah b'tzibur as the roh of the Rebbe.